Okay, hi guys. Welcome to my first proper sort of video, because the first one was an introduction on Kurdistan and Kurdish history. The first sort of topic that I'm going to be looking at is the Kurdish Emirates, sort of the ones in between like Ottoman Empire and the Persian dynasties, and specifically like there's like three main ones. I'm gonna look at them in like separate videos. So there's Botan, there's Soran, and Baban. So the Emirate of Botan basically starts after 1514 when the Ottoman Empire and the Safavids, which is like the Iranian dynasty of the time, they have a war and the Ottoman Empire essentially wins. And these territories become incorporated in the Ottoman Empire, and after they win, they sort of become vassal states. So they're sort of used by the Ottomans, so they don't have to leave troops there to guard the border, but they're also like sort of part of the Ottoman Empire with their own sort of autonomy. And this was like brokered by this Kurdish statesman scholar called Idris Bitlisi. So in return for his their support for the Botan Emirate, they got their own hereditary sort of rule, and they became designated as a Hukûmet, which means like government or lordship, which meant they had certain privileges sort of based on their autonomy. So they had the administrative and fiscal autonomy privileges for themselves. This meant that they were exempt from certain like taxes. So they were exempted from imperial land surveys and the usual system of military fiefs. However, the emirate wasn't always unified. So between the 17th and 18th century, this emirate, the Emirate of Botan, divided sort of into three semi-principalities. And they didn't sort of expand their territory. They just stayed in this area. However, in 1820, a British explorer called Claudius James Rich was basically sent to visit these sort of areas. And when he went in 1820, he basically said that Botan, which was regarded as one of the most like powerful Kurdish emirates, he described it as weak, and that its capital Cizre, was noted to be in a ruinous condition. So basically, it wasn't powerful at all. However, this basic weakness ended when Bedir Khan Beg became sort of the emirate of the land. He came to power in 1821, and he established his rule between the 1830s, and he was by far the most powerful emirate. He was by far the most celebrated ruler of the dynasty, and he quickly distinguished himself by creating sort of a quasi-state administration. He modernized the armed forces, he expanded the emirate's control for like the first time. He started invading other tribal parts of the Ottomans. And this put itself sort of on a collision course with the Ottoman Empire, which itself was trying to centralize power with the Tanzimat reforms in the 1830s. So this would have brought an end to the Kurdish Emirate states. Because of this, Bedir Khan decided to revolt against the Ottoman Empire in the 1840s, which some Kurdish historians regard as the first Kurdish revolt, although this is disputed because it's seen more like a revolt against the Ottomans trying to change the administration of his territory. So the Ottomans sort of invade the Botan Emirate, and the Botan Emirate essentially gets into trouble because in 1846, it massacres a load of Nestorian Christians. So then it is condemned by the West So Britain especially condemns it, and he's forced to sort of surrender in 1847, which sort of marks the end of the Kurdish Emirates, because the Botan Emirate was basically the last one. So as this was like the last Kurdish Emirate, this brought to an end the age-old system of hereditary Kurdish rule, where it went from like one to the next, and it was just these emirates. However, they would come back, this family, the Bedirhanis, later, as like sort of pushing for Kurdish nationalism between like the World War One era. They were like one of the firm supporters of Kurdish nationalism. And yeah, that is the Botan Emirate.